Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Susan Campbell, and I'm CEO of Ronald McDonald House Charities of the Philadelphia region. And it is an honor to be here this afternoon. Thank you to the team at Girls Night Live for including me this week and for the opportunity to share my story, the story of the first Ronald McDonald House in the world here in Philadelphia, the story of our extraordinary visionary, Dr. Audrey Evans, and what we do each and every day and what we're committed to and how we've pivoted in 2020. So I appreciate that opportunity. 19 years ago, I moved back to Philadelphia. I grew up in a suburb of Philadelphia, and I always was committed to volunteer in my community. And to this day, I don't remember how I heard about the Ronald McDonald House. But what I do remember is that I was sitting filling out a volunteer application, and I ended up being a Sunday night volunteer at the Philadelphia Ronald McDonald House at Chestnut Street. At the time, it was a 45-bedroom home housing families of critically ill children traveling to Philadelphia. And every Sunday night, I found myself in the van, transporting families back and forth to and from the hospital in the Ronald McDonald House. And I met many families. And that 10-minute ride or 6 blocks to and from the hospital is really what changed my life. I had a different career, a different focus, and those Sunday nights really put in perspective on how I wanted to spend my days and my professional career and what I wanted my commitment to be. And what I learned is that the Ronald McDonald House was taking care of families and providing everything that they needed while their children were receiving medical treatment. And I had this, that no matter whether they were with us for a night or a year or 30 days, what I was doing, I was directly connected to that mission and felt like I was getting more out of what I was providing than what the family was providing. So fortunately, after 3 years as a volunteer, I very randomly had a meeting with the director at the time, and 2 hours later, I walked away with an undefined position. And that quickly progressed. And I had various positions, and 3 years after joining the staff, I was asked to lead the organization. And it was at that point that I met Dr. Audrey Evans, who is a member of our board and co-founder of the Philadelphia Ronald McDonald House, and began a relationship with Audrey pretty much over a cup of tea. And what I learned was how the Ronald McDonald House came to be, and really the extraordinary vision of Dr. Evans. A little bit about Dr. Evans is she actually is still a member of our board, and will be turning 96 in March. And she grew up in England and broke every glass ceiling there was to break. She decided at an early age that she wanted to be a doctor. And from there, she went to medical school and was one of the few women in medical school. She went on to want to study oncology, was a Fulbright, came to the United States and studied under Sidney Farber, and was assigned to the oncology floor, where she really made a connection. And she talks about how she was assigned to the oncology floor because no one else wanted to be on the oncology floor, because in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, the rate of survival was slim, and no one wanted that assignment, but Audrey embraced it. And in the United States, she worked her way through a couple of different positions in children's hospitals and ended up at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and became the head of oncology. And her philosophy really was about the patients and the families. And she had this vision because parents were sleeping bedside in hard chairs or they weren't able to be there. She had this vision that she wanted a YMCA type house where parents could stay close to the hospital and be there for their children. And it was that vision in combination with the Philadelphia Eagles and McDonald's Corporation that in 1974 opened the very first Ronald McDonald House in the world. And there are now over 365. And so what I wanted to do was just to show a brief interview that I had with Audrey about her philosophy behind who we should be and why the Ronald McDonald House was created. And then truly how she's changed the world from that vision and the start of the Ronald McDonald House.
So Audrey, the reason why we're here is because we've done lots of taping and lots of stories with you, and there are a couple thousand people coming together, and we want them to know what you were thinking when you thought of the Ronald McDonald House and some things that you always want them to remember.
To care. To care for other people. To think of what other people need, and I mean, we can think of our own needs of what we need, but to think, is there anybody else that I can help?
Really, you thought about the family and you thought about patients before the buzzword family-centered care. You were doing family-centered care before it was a term.
But we learned it from somebody. We learned it from Dr. Sidney Farber at the Children's Hospital in Boston, who has this beautiful drawing of a family in the middle and all the people around it. And the center of treatment for a child with cancer is the family. A family with a sick child is a sick family. So you must think about everybody, the siblings, the mother, the father, maybe grandmother that's house keeps or something like that. You have to remember that they're part of a group. So you must remember the family.
So how does the Ronald House then, in a similar way, help families or patients or siblings?
Oh, it's a huge help. I mean, it's an incredible home environment. It's not just food and beds and clothing. It's a atmosphere of care and support.
Did you ever imagine that it would be worldwide?
Oh, of course I knew it would end up with 525,000 houses all over the world. Of course I didn't.
45 years ago, the first Ronald McDonald House opened its doors to families in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Since then, over 365 houses, 250 family rooms, 50 Ronald McDonald Caremobiles, and numerous supportive programs have opened their doors to deserving families around the world. The Philadelphia Ronald McDonald House chapter continued growing throughout the past 45 years. It now has a Ronald McDonald camp, 3 Ronald McDonald family rooms, a Ronald McDonald Caremobile, and 2 houses. Its Chestnut Street house recently expanding to serve more than twice as many families. Across the globe, RMHC programs are supported by almost 5,000 staff personnel and over 536,000 volunteers from our local communities. Thank you to these extraordinary employees and very special volunteers.
Well, hopefully you got to meet Dr. Audrey Evans a little bit more, and that you can see what an absolutely extraordinarily visionary and woman that she is. After she started the first Ronald McDonald House, she continued her research in neuroblastoma, and even into her retirement in her 80s, she co-founded a school in North Philadelphia and continues to support all of the things that are important to her into her 90s. And it is just an absolute honor to have the opportunity to get to know her. And it's actually been an honor, too, that I've been working with a woman by the name of Julia Fardman, who has created a screenplay, written a screenplay, and is in the process of partnering with a director and to get it produced. And it's called Audrey's Children. And so in the chat function, there's information about Audrey's Children and the concept if you're interested in learning more about the movie and about Audrey. All of us, when we're running a business or a part of a business, really turn to our why. Why do we exist? And there's really three main whys on why a Ronald McDonald House chapter exists. The first is that we believe that children, all children, should have access to the best health care that there is when they have a serious illness. And in order to do that, we need to come up with programs to provide that access to the health care. The second thing of why we exist is that we exist to reduce the financial burden of having a seriously ill child. We have families that are staying with us 1 week, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, over 100 days, and sometimes even a year. We have families that may come to us for chemotherapy treatment for 6 months and then go home and then come back again, and that are with us for several years over time. We believe that families should not have such financial devastation that they have to choose about whether to receive treatment for their children. And our third why is that we believe in the power of psychosocial services and social services that a family needs when they have a seriously ill child. We believe in the power of families supporting families. We really are a specialized hotel. But what makes us different is that families come together and they share their stories and they're a support to one another. And that's something that you can't find if you're staying in a hotel or you're staying bedside in the hospital in the same way than what a Ronald McDonald House provides. We've taken those three whys and then we've built our programs around them. And we basically have three foundational pillars. The first is lodging, and here in Philadelphia, we have 147 rooms at 2 locations, supporting families that are coming to over 12 partner hospitals in Philadelphia for the best medical care in the nation and around the world. We have families that are coming from the greater Philadelphia region, from the Mid-Atlantic, from the United States, and from around the world. And as I mentioned, we have families that are coming for 1 night, and we have families that stay with us for a year. Our second pillar is then built around that lodging, and that is food. And that we believe that when families stay with us, that we need to create the support system around them so that the only thing that they need to focus on is the health of their child. And so we provide 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner at both of our locations. And prior to COVID, we had thousands of volunteers that would come in and help us purchase, prepare, and serve the meal. And the third pillar is really our social services. And this really goes back to Dr. Evans, who really believed in the power of social work. And so here in Philadelphia, we have a team of social workers that work with every family that checks into the house. and we anticipate everything that they could possibly need, whether it's transportation to and from the hospital, whether it's sitting and talking with a family, whether it's connecting a family with other resources, whether it's working through bringing siblings into the Ronald McDonald House and what they might need in terms of educational support. And we run an oncology camp every summer, a 1-week overnight camp for over 230 campers, oncology patients and siblings, and programming each and every night within the Ronald McDonald Houses, both for children and for adults. This past year, we opened at our Chestnut Street location a $55 million expansion project where we almost tripled in size. And we began 2020 with 100 rooms in operation and pretty much 100% occupied each and every night. So when COVID hit, we did go into what I would call a lockdown and suspended new families coming in. But we took care of over 200 family members in the beginning of COVID. And then after a 6-week period, we were able to begin to welcome new families back in. And we've really had to pivot our model and turn back to those pillars that are most important to serve our families. We had to suspend the several hundred volunteers that are part of our workforce each and every day. We had to suspend our volunteer food service and really turn to a team of food service associates. And we went to our culinary workforce partners and our interns, and we hired them part-time. And our kitchen has been open throughout, serving meals each and every day. And we also went out into the community to see what else was needed. And during the past year at our locations, we have been bagging fresh produce and boxing food boxes that then our volunteers have been delivering into the community. And we've been looking for other opportunities during this time that we can be a community partner in a different way. And so what we've been trying to do is really anticipate and learn, what does our community need? What do the families in the house need? And then when people go home, our former guest families, during this time, many of them have gone home to no job, and many of the struggles that our communities are facing, they are facing. And then on top of that, they're battling a child with a critical illness. And so we've really started some outreach with our former guest families. We provided Thanksgiving boxes. We've been providing clothing and gifts around the holidays. And we are launching a more robust program in 2021 around our former guest families and supporting them more for when they go home. The other thing that we've been focusing on is, how do we bring fun into the Ronald McDonald House? How do we bring fun in even though our common areas are not open? And so we have created a whole platform of virtual programming. And we have created a series of mini camps that our oncology campers and the children staying in the house can attend in lieu of some of the other in-person programming that we would normally provide. So as we look into 2021, our goal is to serve as many families as we can during COVID and keeping everybody safe. We do have strict protocols, and that we figure out families that may live more locally but still need help during COVID, that we can provide that to, and really look forward to a time as we can incrementally open back up some of our in-person volunteering and in-person programming. How folks can help us is, there's lots of different ways right now. There is a Girls Night Live webpage that we've created and that I know will be in the chat. There are several ways that folks can help. One, you can make a donation today that'll directly support the programs and the families that we serve. Two, we're launching in the month of February a virtual reading program for school-age children. It is 28 days of reading, and folks can make a donation to participate or go out and ask people to sponsor the number of hours that they read. Third, we are also having a book club for the month of February with several authors that are going to do workshops that folks can join. Fourth, we have a wish list that is also on the website if you're interested in purchasing something to support our programs. And fifth, my email is on the website. And if you or your company are interested in other sponsorship opportunities, are interested in learning about the capital campaign and the investment we made in our tower and other ways that you can support us, I would love to hear from the participants. If you just want to learn, other ways that you can help. And if you're interested in volunteering in the future, we are certainly gathering information so that when we can bring volunteers back into the house, that opportunity is there. I'm going to break for just a second here and look to see if there might be any questions that anyone has about the start of the Ronald McDonald House, Dr. Evans's vision, the families that we serve. I see that someone volunteered in Nevada, which is great. Just looking here for some questions. Okay, here's a question. In this time of pandemic, are there ways someone can donate food or items to the house? Absolutely. So there's a couple different ways that you can donate. First, as I mentioned, our food service program is preparing several hundred sandwiches, grab-and-go items, continental breakfast, and several hundred individual meals each and every night. So we are looking for, we do have a wish list that is on the website, but we are also looking for in-kind produce, in-kind meat donors, in-kind pantry items. And if you have a connection, my email is on the website, and I would love to have a conversation. In addition, we do have an official wish list that is also on the website on your screen and that will be in the chat of the items that we need. But we are running, we really are running a specialized hotel. So everything that you need to run a hotel, whether it's housekeeping supplies, whether it's building supplies, whether it's free maintenance labor, all of that is, our services and materials that we are always looking for partners. So thank you for that question. Another question is, how do you become a volunteer at a Ronald McDonald House Charities? Do you have to be part of a group? So here in Philadelphia and pretty much across the United States, you do not have to be part of a group. There are lots of different ways that you can volunteer. In Philadelphia, there is information on our website, and our website link is part of this program. We are always looking for front desk volunteers. We are always looking for volunteer van drivers. We ask folks to make a commitment to volunteer at least twice a month. Now, certainly, during COVID, we do have some restrictions. Right now, we just have our van drivers coming into the house, but we anticipate in 2021 that we will open that back up. Many Ronald McDonald houses, including ours, also has what's called a guest chef program, and groups can come and help prepare the meal at the house and serve it to our families. We are always looking for community service groups to volunteer. And we do have some virtual volunteer opportunities now. And if you're interested in that, you can email me as well. Thank you for that question. Okay. Another question is in terms of the movie would be a 2022-2023 release. And then how do families apply to get in the houses? What are the criteria? So here in Philadelphia, we have two criteria. And that is that you live 25 miles away and that the age of the patient is 21 years of age and younger. And we have started to look at that 25-mile requirement, and we do have folks that live closer, given their circumstances, that are staying with us, and that the reason for visit is a serious illness. It could be a follow-up appointment post-surgery as well. But that is the two basic criteria for Ronald McDonald House. Thank you for that question. Are there volunteer jobs for kids at the Ronald McDonald House? Because I want to help. Absolutely. So right now during COVID, there are not in-house jobs for kids. Children at the Philadelphia House that are in middle school and high school age can be part of a group that comes and cooks at the house. We have a lot of groups that come and cook breakfast that include school-age children. We also have high school summer interns that come in and often are playroom volunteers in the evenings. And so while parents are eating their dinner, children can volunteer, or kids can volunteer and play with children in the kitchen or in our playrooms. And then we also look to Eagle Scout projects and also community service hours that may be part of high school. And we can tailor different projects based on what you have in mind. We often have folks come in and do a craft project as part of a middle school or high school opportunity. One of the things that we do focus on in those opportunities, it's making sure that whatever it is, it's something that is more episodic. In other words, you're coming in and you're doing a project for a couple hours, with the exception of our high school summer volunteer program. Depending on where you live and where your closest Ronald McDonald House is, there may be some additional opportunities, but certainly we work with each and every person on what their interest is. By way of example, we have had some kids that have been interested in magic, and they've come and done magic tricks with the kids. So we really work with what people's talents and interests are to find the best match. Another question is, do you still accept soda tabs for donation? Yes, we do accept soda tabs, recycling for the house. You can call the house ahead of time prior to drop off. And we do partner with a scrap metal vendor who comes periodically and picks up our soda tabs. Thanks for that question. How long can you stay at the Ronald McDonald House? So here in Philadelphia, we have families that can stay up to a year. Sometimes it's extended. If they are staying beyond a year, our social work team actually works with the family and some partners to find them more permanent housing, whether it's a rental of an apartment or a rental of a house. We have a bunch of different resources to try to get families more comfortably and permanently placed within the Philadelphia area. And we do have families that relocate, that they decide that they want to continue the treatment in Philadelphia, that they relocate to Philadelphia. And we do have resources to help them get settled. We have a family emergency fund that we can use to help with a deposit on an apartment to help with that relocation. Thanks for that question. Do you have plans to build more houses in the area? Right now, we do not have plans to build more houses in the Philadelphia area. We have a house in University City District. We just finished in 2019-2020 a $55 million expansion with an 8-story tower. So we have 127 rooms in University City. And we have 20 bedrooms at our Front Erie house next to St. Christopher's Hospital in North Philadelphia, where we serve both Shriners Hospital and St. Chris. So we are just finishing up that construction, and we're not quite ready for the next project, but we are certainly open for any new opportunities that come in the future. How can you start your own? Because I want to start one. Well, all of the Ronald McDonald houses are licensed with Ronald McDonald House Charities, which is the global charity located in Chicago, Illinois. And it, as part of that process, does require the support of Ronald McDonald House Charities in getting it up and running. And you can certainly look at Ronald McDonald House Charities wherever there's a pediatric hospital. In most communities, there is some form of a Ronald McDonald House, whether it's outside the hospital or within the hospital. Next question, is there a training period for new volunteers? Absolutely. So we have a director and assistant director of volunteers that meets with each and every person that is interested in volunteering and learns about their interests. We sometimes pair, some volunteers are interested in just driving the van. Other volunteers are interested in volunteering in our kitchens. Some volunteers are interested in maintenance and outside landscaping projects. And so we match those volunteers with the opportunities. And then as part of your onboarding, you do go through some training. And we also have a virtual training now that everyone goes through in terms of learning about our families before you arrive. And then once you do arrive to your shift, you're often partnered with some senior volunteers that have been with us for many years to learn the ropes. But we welcome new volunteers each and every day or each week prior to COVID in 2020. Thank you for that question. Another question, are the meals sourced from the same suppliers as the McDonald's restaurants? Great question. No. So we are completely separate. We are our own, the Philadelphia House and all of the Ronald McDonald houses are our own nonprofit 501c3. We do have a relationship with the local McDonald's owner operators, and McDonald's is one of our legacy partners in terms of the creation of the first house. We do have a connection with some of the McDonald's suppliers that end up being donors or in-kind donors, but a majority of our food sourcing is coming from non-McDonald's suppliers and are coming from local partners. The types of things that we're looking for is because we have a food service team, given the size of 127 bedrooms, we do order our food, produce, meat, bakery goods, dairy. We do have quite a volume that we go through each and every month, and we do look to partner with local suppliers to either donate or supply that food at a discount. And certainly if you have any links or information, my email address is on the website, which is the link that will either be in the chat or in the upper right hand of your screen, and you can certainly email me, and I would welcome the opportunity to talk to you about that. Can you have a pet while staying at the house? Great question. Unfortunately, unless it is a certified assistant dog that is traveling with you, or if someone is visually impaired and has a pet with them, that certainly a seeing eye dog is certainly part of their family checking in. But otherwise, although there have been folks that have arrived with their pets, we are not able to have pets in the rooms. However, that does remind me that we do have a robust pet therapy program in both of our houses, and we have several volunteer owners with their certified therapy dogs that come in the evenings so that the families can spend time with the dogs. And it is the perfect medicine after a long day in the hospital. And certainly, if that's something that you're interested in, we do have that program and are always looking for new partners. I think that is all of the questions that have been posed. Great questions. And I want to thank everybody for wanting to learn more about what we do and how people can help, and for taking the time to learn about the start of the first Ronald McDonald House here in Philadelphia and why we exist, and the vision, the extraordinary vision of Dr. Audrey Evans, the mastermind behind it, and really the impact that it's had on the world with over 365 houses worldwide. Houses and staff and volunteers have served thousands and thousands of families over the last 46 years that have truly made an impact. So thank you again for joining. And I encourage you to click on the Girls Night Live website page that we've made. And please feel free to email me with any questions or ideas. And thank you again.